Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for being patient with me or with my computer. I think I need to clean it all up, but I guess I'll get to that one day. So we are starting a new chapter, chapter 8, and chapter 8 is called "Good Eye," right? A good eye. See Hashem's view. Right, so this comes from Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Father, right? In chapter 2, there's a very famous Mishnah where it says that Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, the great Torah sage who lived during the temple and during the destruction of the temple and after the temple, it's thanks to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, diplomatic way of dealing with things that we actually have Torah scholars, and the Torah is God. He was God's messenger, and his diplomatic way of requesting from the Romans to be able to have the city of Yavne, where the Torah scholars were learning, and some other requests. That he knew that the destruction was going to happen, right? As a famous saying goes, "Tafasta meruba lo tafasta," right? If you ask for too much, you're not going to get anything. And the Hebrew phrase is tafasta. Tafasta means to hold on, right? Tafasta meruba lo tafasta. If you ask for too much, you're not going to get anything. Because the Talmud asks, why didn't he ask the Roman generals not to destroy the temple, right? And to leave the Jewish people alone? So he knew that was too much, right? He knew that was too big of an ask. Right. So what he did do is he asked for at least that our Masorah, our traditions, our Torah, right, should be, have the ability to survive through the destruction and the exile, through this traumatic time, that we keep the unbroken chain, which is really the power and the battery that powers the Jewish people, right, for wherever we are. So it's thanks to him with that foresight to be able to ask for that thing, for that request. But that's not the point. This is a little introduction to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was, right? That's just one little glimpse. Over here, he had a couple of students, right? And he asked his students, he said, tell me what is the best way, Ezu derech tova, what is the best way that one should work on, one should go with, right? That was his question that he asked his students. He was challenging his students. He said, Ezu derech tova, what is the best way that one should go? And different students said different things, right? And I'm not going to go through the whole Mishnah right now, right? One of his students said, ayin tova, a good eye. Right? That's what one of his students said, ayin tova. Just to get the last student, Rabbi Lezer ben Arach, said a leiv tov, a good heart, right? And he said a leiv tov is kol kulam, it includes all of them. But we're not learning Pirkei Avos now. We did that for 6.5 years, right? It's always good to learn Pirkei Avos, right? Don't get me wrong, right? If anybody's interested in learning Pirkei Avos, I'd be happy to have a chavrusa with them or make another small group and learn Pirkei Avos again, if there's an interest out there. But for our conversation, one of the rabbis said an ayin tov, a good eye. What does it mean an ayin tov? What does it mean a good eye, right? Of course, it doesn't mean 20/20 vision, right? Because then I'm doomed, right? I don't got 20/20 vision. I got terrible eyesight. I got multifocal. I got stigmas, right? I got calluses in my eyes, right? So I'm doomed, right? So what does it mean? What does it mean ayin tov, a good eye? So the commentaries explain, and this is really what this chapter, this paragraph, is just explaining, and this is as you explained, this is the direction of this chapter of giving us the philosophy and the insight of how to overcome the challenges and the urges or the struggles of lashon hara or achilos, talking negative about other people, which of course is just a manifestation of feelings about other people, right? Or the relationship with other people, right? Is ayin tov, a good eye, seeing Hashem's view. And that's how they're calling. So let's just go through this paragraph quickly, and then we'll start this chapter. Hashem is the creator, and he is perfect. He created a world that, in his own words, as it says in Genesis and Bereshis, Vayar Elokim ki tov, and God saw that it was good, right? In his own words, it's good. Everything in creation, right, is invested with Hashem's goodness. even when we cannot see it. It is sure to be there. Someone with an ayin tova, someone with a good eye, can look past the outer shell and see the spark of goodness in the situation and people he encounters. By gaining this skill, we gain the most precious commodity, the joy of living in a good world filled with good people and guided by a creator who does only what is good for us. Right? That's an ayin tova. So, of course, you're going to ask me, right? I'm sure it's on all of your minds, right? It said good people, right? Of course, there's bad people out there, right? Hitler, may his name be bolted out forever and ever, right? Yasser Arafat, right? Saddam Hussein, right? Osama bin Laden, right? And many others, right? Throughout the ages, right? And some our days, right? Some really bad people, right? Let's be honest, right? Some really, really bad people, right? So what does it mean that every person is good? Good question. Right? We're not going to talk about this right now, right? But it's a very powerful question. Just a quick insight, right? Because it's really not our discussion today, but I knew it's probably on all of your minds, right? There's the way I like understanding this is God created everybody with the ability of doing good, right? At the end of the day, we have our free will. God's not taking away our free will. It's our choice to do good or to do bad. But at the same time, what is tov? What is good? Good is someone doing something good, right? But also good is something that we could learn from. And if you could learn something from someone or from something, you could take good out of it by learning something positive, right? So you are able to find good, not necessarily by that person being good, right? But by you finding something good out of it. And this, the way I see it is through another Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, another famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, right? Where the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, right, that Ezu HaChacham, who is a wise person, Halomed Mikal Adam, one who learns from every person. And now the word is very interesting. Halomed Mikal Ha'adam, from every person. Every person, you right, from a child, right, from someone that does bad, but you can learn something from every person. And the answer is yes. Right? If you are someone that sees every encounter that you have with someone or knowledge you acquire that you could learn something, sometimes learning is also what not to do. Right? Sometimes it's learning what not to do, and this really is an important topic. And I know we haven't even spoken about Lashon Hara yet, but this is just a doorway to talk about this idea for a second, right? A lot of times we are living in a society where everything has to be positive, right? Positive reinforcement and positive and positive and positive, and that's wonderful. That's great, right? Of course, give positive reinforcement, but when you're only looking at the positive, right, a lot of times, right, we don't know what not to do either, right? Because we only know what to do, right, or how to do it, or we should be good, and we should be bad, or we should do this, and you have the power, and you are the greatest, and you're the best, right, and all those wonderful things, right? But, right, a lot of times a tremendous lesson is seeing, right, the wrong way also, or saying that is not a right way of acting, right? Because you have to bring that out too, right? So nowadays this is really not done, but someone told me that his father, right? This is going back, I think, to the 70s, right? His father was a police officer or something, right? And he did some mischief. Right, so his father got his friends, right, to pull him over. Of course, it wasn't anything, right, to pull him over, right, and scare him, right, take him and put him in a cell for it was like 5 minutes. His father was right there, right, and then release him and said, "You didn't, but this is where you could be if you continue down this path." Right? Okay, that's extreme, right? And I'm not saying that's what one should do, right? But there is an idea of showing people what is bad behavior, not knocking that person, not saying don't be like that person, right? Because then you're talking negative about someone else, right? But saying behaviors like that are not proper. Right. So even from Hitler, may his name be blotted out forever and ever, there is no good in him at all. He's pure evil. He's straight in hell, in Gehenna, as we say in Hebrew. But there's still what to learn from, that we could extrapolate for ourselves to become better from that, right? To realize that, doctrines like that, and how far people could go, and the importance of not being impressed by or from the people that were affected by him. He was a tremendous speaker, right? And when you have a philosophy, right, you have to be careful that a lot of isms are dangerous. Right? You take it too far and you could hurt other people, even if you might have good intentions. And but there's still something that you could learn from not to do, right? Not to do, right? And that is Ezu HaChacham Lo Me'emi Kol Adam. Who's a wise person? A wise person is someone that learns from every person. He realizes there's always something to learn. Positive knowledge, or how to refrain from certain things, what not to do from certain things, right? And that is also how we could find good, right? We could find good in everything in every person that we encounter, in every situation that we encounter. Not necessarily that person is good, or that action is good, or that situation is good, right? But God created that there's always something that we could learn from. Right? Because we have the free will to always find the good, right? In everything, not necessarily in the person, right? But how to make ourselves better people. Any comments or questions on what we just spoke about? Okay. So then we will move on. All right. So let's look at the first case. As we said, the halacha is slightly connected to this idea, right? But not necessarily. It just sort of takes another direction. So till now, just a quick recap, right? Last chapter is primarily talking about situations, right, where you're going to fall into this dilemma of toeles, right? Of where there's something that might be constructive, some positive reason why you have to say something, right? And at the same time, saying something about the other person, right? And a lot of the cases that they were talking about is, references for a match, right, or a business or whatever it is, right? That's what was the last. Now we're moving away from that a little bit, and the scenario is like this: an old classmate finds you at a wedding and starts telling you about the many business failures of someone who graduated with you, right? Classmate, whatever. Again, that's just the case that they have here. His story is clearly geared at this describing how the person is, right, rather than soliciting help for him or someone other positive purpose. How should you respond? Right, so it's clear, right, that this person is just, trashing this person, right, just talking negative about this person, right, not really looking to help this person. It's clear, right? And you say, how is it clear? Let's be honest. We're all aware, right, of situations like that, right? We all aware when we hear something, right? So how should you respond? That's the question. What is your response? What do you guys think? Sima, you want to? Okay, so Sima over here in person, right, says to stop him. All right. Okay. Jim, I see you unmuted yourself.
I made my first video appearance in a long time.
Good to see you. I mean, we don't see you, we just see black, but it's still.
I would start as quickly as possible. As they started doing that. Really?
Say that again.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Now we can see you too.
Yeah, I don't have a good internet connection. That's probably why the video is messed up. I'm going to go back off video, so maybe it'll help my signal.
That's fine.
Anyway, that's even better. Thank you, Avi. I would change the subject as quickly as possible. You could be rude and say, you really shouldn't be talking like that. That's not nice, blah, blah, blah. The way I would I've handled stuff like that before is when someone, I come up with something to do. So how do you think the Jaguar this year? How's your kids doing? Just almost interrupt them and see if that would get the message across that I don't want to hear this.
Okay, so if your connection
My
is a
first
little,
attempt.
right. So just to recap and I guess give me thumbs up, right? If it's true, that's what you're saying. That you're saying that try to stop him, change the topic. If possible, rebuke him a little bit. But the main point is to really try to change the topic, talk about the kids, talk about the Jags, right? That they lost again, right? They got us a little excited. They won 2 games, and but or something like that. But try to very much change it and stop the conversation. Correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't rebuke him until if he or she kept talking about it. Then I would say we shouldn't be doing that.
Can
Okay,
I just,
go ahead,
I
Bob.
have a okay, so I think, let's just say, all right, if it's between the two of you, you can gently, say, I don't think this is a topic we should discuss. If it's in a group, you would not rebuke him within the group. You might just switch the subject and speak to him, separately. But the other thing is, I was told, and it took me a long time to figure this out, that you don't rebuke or tell somebody if they're not going to hear you. They're not going to learn from that.
This is correct.
Okay. And the other thing is, I think if we just change the subject, what did the person who's speaking negatively learn from that? So there has to be, a sequence of events that occur. And even if they're not going to learn from it, they're not going to learn from it.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so you're all saying the right answer, right? You all touched on the excellent points, right? Let's just see the answer very quickly. We are required to stop someone who is speaking less than an hour and let him know that he's doing something improper. Right? Let's just read the whole paragraph and then we'll look at it. This is true even if we'll be angry and say something that is embarrassing us. If possible, we should rebuke the person in private and always in a respectful and understanding way. Rebuke is not proper response. However, if as a result the other person is likely to rebuttal his lesson horror. Right. So let me expand on this a little bit. Right. You're all correct. Right. Number one is put a halt. Press on the brakes. Put a halt to this conversation, either by changing the subject. Right. Whatever way you're able to do it. Right. But number one is stopping the subject. Now, if, like Bonnie pointed out, there is an idea, and I wanted to look at it's brought out better in the quote on page 211. Look at the quote 211. It's from Michtav Eliyahu, right? And he says like this: rebuke that does not come from a sincere caring for the transgression will prove ineffective, and the rebuke will be judged for humility as fellow Jew, unnecessary and causing him distress. Rebuke. And there's many caveats to this, right? And this is one idea, right? Bonnie, you were talking about more if the person's not going to listen to you, right? But a lot of times that stems from, right, where the rebuke is coming from your own anger, rebuke is coming from, right, your own distastefulness, right? But the rebuke has to be, right, that it's coming from, right, to really help that person. Really has to be honest with themselves, right? That's why they're rebuking the person, right? Because I really challenge all of us, right? Because, and I know myself, a lot of times, right? Even our own kids, right? Even our close friends, a lot of times it's coming from just, it's for us, not so much for that person, but we need to get this off our chest, right? We want this to stop, right? We're embarrassed from our kids, right? We're embarrassed from that person, right? Are you really doing it for the person? And teachers have to know, teachers and parents have to know this on the deepest level, because, right? Because it really affects how the rebuke, right? And we're using the word rebuke. It could be disciplined, and it could be whatever, however way you want to, use the term, right? But it's all within the same family, right? It has to be sincere for the help of that person. As we mentioned many times, we spoke about this in the way you have conversation with other people. Kamayim panim upon. The prophet writes, right, that the way your face, if you look at a mirror, mayim, water is like a mirror, right? So that's what he's referring to. If you look at a mirror, the way your facial expression is the way you see it. Right. So if you have a smile, so you see in the smile, right? If you have a frown, see a frown, right? So too, right, your feelings, right, is expressed, right, with your words, right? Your feelings expressed, right, with your mannerism. And the people that are being talked to, right, or disciplined, whatever it is, right, feel that energy. Feel that energy. And they really know what's in your heart, right? They do. And that's why sometimes the person doesn't really care about me, just whatever, right? Or sometimes you find someone said, everything okay? Well, what's wrong? I'm smiling, right? Yeah, you're putting on a fake smile. You can see it from you can see it from a mile away, because you have anguish inside, you have hurt inside, right? The way we feel, right, is the way other people see it, right? And therefore, right, if the conversation over here, and Bonnie, you're right about if the person's going to listen to you or not, but the point they're bringing out over here is, why are you rebuking that person? Stopping the person, yes, 100%, but you have to really take a deep look, dive inside yourself, and say, why am I rebuking that person? Am I rebuking that person just to make myself feel better? Am I rebuking that person just for, to strengthen my, I'm struggling with lesson hard, so I need to rebuke that person to strengthen myself. You know what? Don't use that person as a punching bag, right? Go ahead and talk to mirror and rebuke yourself, right? Whatever it is, right? You have to really see that you're rebuking that person, right, for helping that person. Right, disciplining that person for helping that person, right? And also parents, when you discipline, you have to make sure that you do it for. There's a famous story of one of I forgot who it was, pre-war Europe, right? One of the rabbis, I forgot who it was. One of the famous rabbis that his students saw, right, that his child did something, whatever it was, right, they're watching the father, this rabbi, discipline his child. He calls his child over, and again, this is pre-war Europe anyways, things were very different back then, right? But he calls his child over and he says, Tatala, right? Come over here, right? He comes over. Tatala means my child, my sweetie, right? He says, come here. He gives him a kiss on the forehead. He says, I love you very much, right? And I only want the best for you, right? But right, do this thing, right? And he slaps him across the face. And again, things were very different back then, right? Even 20 years ago, right? Things were very different, right? But he went ahead and he slapped him across the face. Afterwards, right? He slapped him. He went ahead and he rubbed his cheek. Said, "I didn't really want to do this, but you had to. You needed to know that this was something wrong, right?" Now, okay, we need to go to such extremes or not. Right? It's always good to kiss your child. I'm a big believer in that. Cuddle with them, kiss them, right? Especially now, they always need it, right? But they need tons of affection and love, right? And spending time with them, right? But at the same time, you also have to you need a discipline, right? But the discipline has to be done out of, right? That the kid knows, even though they might say, "No, you hate me." Okay, kids are going to say that, right? You're so mean, and right? Kids are, right? But right, it has to be that it's really genuine, that you're doing it out because you love them and you want to educate them. It's the same thing with children, and that's the same thing with rebuke. It has to be that you're doing it out of because you really care. It's a good friend, or it's another Jew, another person, and you really care about everybody, right? So that's I think an important lesson. And then again, the way to do that, and why is this in this chapter, right? If you read, let's get real, right? And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, right? When we are able to see the good, when we have an ayin tova, when we have that good and realize that we can find good in every person, right? It's much easier, right? And it's I don't want to use the word tactic. Tactic sounds like it's like a way of getting around things, but it's a way of being able to be that person, right, that actually gives your rebuke for the proper reasons, right? Because you see this person has an ability to grow, it has ability to change, right? And you want to help that person out. You realize that Hashem put you in this situation because you have the ability to sit down with this person and have a conversation, about Lashon Hara, talking about other people, right? Growing, helping other people grow, and blah blah blah, and all that stuff, right? So this idea of being positive and having that good eye and noticing the good in everybody is a character trait that is needed to be able to be someone that can rebuke other people, right? But even if you're not that person, and you know that you're not that person, you still have to change the conversation, right? Because there is no toelis going on over here, and there's no positive at all going on. So you're going to have to change the conversation. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Martha.
Okay, so when you first said about the good eye, I kept thinking focus and being in the moment is very important. And then when you continued and we were talking about the children, I thought about this hurts me more than it hurts you, what the father would say to the child, because that was at the time. And it all kind of comes together with what I was talking to Bonnie before you got here, is technology. And it used to be you're on the telephone and talking to your son who's in wherever, and you say something, but you're not seeing the facial expression. And now we have, and it's hard to adjust sometimes, being over 70-ish. So I'm just, those were the three things that I was thinking.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Suzette.
Good morning. So a couple of comments. And my first comment is, it goes back to something that my father used to say when I was going through my latter teenage, a younger adult, and had less than stellar behavior. He would say, learn from other people's mistakes. It's not necessary to make the same mistake. So that's my comment. My question is, in the scenario given, if we neither stop the person nor rebuke the person, but we just walk away, have we transgressed? Have we done something wrong? If we don't stop the conversation, we just excuse ourselves and say, excuse me, I'm leaving.
Excellent question. So the answer is no, right? Because by you excusing yourself and moving yourself from conversation, you are actually doing an action of stopping the conversation. Because unless the person likes to talk to himself, right? Typically, a conversation has to be with two people. Now, there are plenty of people that talk to themselves, and that's an interesting question, and I don't know the answer. If someone talks to themselves and speak Lashon Hara to himself about someone else, is that Lashon Hara or not, right? But all that aside, but on a serious note, when you walk away, that is actually one of the biggest statements that you can make. Right, it's a tremendous statement that you can make. Right, you can just say, excuse me, I gotta go get a drink. I gotta go talk to someone else. I need to go. Right, that is a tremendous statement. Now it's up to that person to figure out why you did that. Right, but if you feel that there is no conversation that you could talk about, right, you're not a Jack's foreign, right, and you're not whatever, and you don't have kids in the same age, and it's you haven't seen the person or whatever, and the conversation's not. It's just the person's just a more dominant, conversationalist than you are. Just the personality, you're more of a listener than a talker, right? And there are people like that, right? So then, yes, what you should do is just excuse yourself and move away. What you can't do is, and this is what we spoke about before, and just say, I'm just gonna tune out. I'm just gonna stick around. I'm gonna tune. Let's say it's not just you, it's two other people, whatever. So I'm just gonna tune out. I'm not gonna believe anything. I'm not gonna, by your presence there, right? A lack of doing something, right, is showing that you are part of that conversation still, right? So either change the conversation, or remove yourself from the situation. So 100% by you just excusing yourself, right? That in itself is showing that this is not something that you want to be part of. Right? Number one, it's up to them to figure that out or not, but for yourself, right? And for the Vera, the transgression of Lashon Hara, Rechilas, right? You are showing that that's not something you want to be part of, and therefore you did not have that transgression when you heard those things, because right away you did something.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording.